The perpetual twilight of Kepler 442c cast long shadows through the dense, misty underbrush. Towering vegetation, some reaching heights of 30 meters, created a primordial canopy that filtered the dim, red light of the distant star. Beneath this ancient forest, a predator moved with deadly precision. Rhea Kethvar's silver-flecked eyes adjusted instantly to the shifting patterns of light and shadow. Her respiratory membranes, nearly invisible slits along her neck, filtered the heavy air with silent efficiency. Every sense was heightened. The subtle vibration of footsteps kilometers away, the chemical signatures of a dozen different species, the thermal variations that painted a living map of her surroundings. She had been hunting this particular prey for 3 months now, tracking it across 4 star systems. The contract had come with an unusually high bounty and minimal information. Capture subject alive. Deliver to coordinates. Ask no questions. Standard procedure for her profession. But nothing about this hunt had been standard. This prey was different, clever, resourceful. It had evaded her traps on Europa, disappeared in the methane storms of Titan, and somehow detected her stealth craft on the fringes of the Oort cloud. No human should possess such skills. No human should know how to counter Sithari hunting techniques that predated Earth's discovery by millennia. Yet here she was, on this frontier world, closing in at last. Rhea crouched, running her 6-fingered hand through the disturbed soil. The tracks were fresh, less than an hour old. Her quarry was slowing down, perhaps growing tired after the relentless pursuit. She allowed herself a small smile, the expression pulling at the delicate silver markings that traced her cheekbones down to her jaw. The hunt was nearly over. The forest thinned as she approached a small clearing. The smell reached her first, smoke, meat cooking over open flame. Then she saw it, an orange canvas tent, a small campfire, and equipment scattered about in plain view. It was so obvious it could only be a trap. Yet something about the arrangement gave her pause. This wasn't desperation. This was an invitation. "I know you're there." Huntress Kethvar called a calm, deep voice from beside the fire. "You might as well come out. I've prepared dinner." Rhea's hand instinctively moved to the phase pistol at her hip. But she didn't draw. After 3 months of pursuit, her prey wasn't running anymore. For the first time, he, was challenging her directly. She emerged from the tree line with fluid grace, her tall frame moving with predatory confidence. Her silver-white hair was pulled back in intricate braids that emphasized her non-human features. The slight elongation of her skull, the lack of external ears, the metallic flecks in her pale skin that caught the firelight. The human sat casually on a collapsible stool, turning what appeared to be some kind of native animal on a spit over the flames. He wore simple expedition gear, thermal regulation clothing, boots well worn from traversing difficult terrain, and a utility belt with various tools. No visible weapons, though she knew better than to assume he was unarmed. "Cody Brennan," she said, speaking his name for the first time. "You've led me on quite a chase." He looked up, and Rhea was struck by the intensity in his eyes. Deep blue, intelligent, and utterly unafraid. His face was weathered, with several days' growth of beard, and a scar that ran from his right temple to his jaw. 3 months, 4 systems, 17 near captures. He replied with a slight smile. "I'm almost disappointed it's ending. You're exactly as persistent as your reputation suggests." Rhea remained standing, keeping a calculated distance between them. "You know my name. You know my methods. You've studied me." "Of course." He gestured to the meat cooking over the fire. "You prefer your protein barely seared. You sleep in 4-hour cycles. You favor your right hand for precision work, despite being naturally left dominant. You can track through vacuum by following ion disruptions most species can't even detect." He paused, his expression growing more serious. "And you've never failed to deliver a contract. Until now, she asked, her voice neutral despite the implied challenge. That depends on what happens next. He removed the meat from the fire and offered her a portion on a metal plate. I think we should talk before you decide whether to complete your contract or not. Rhea didn't move to take the food. I don't negotiate with prey. I'm not asking you to negotiate, Cody said, setting the plate down where she could reach it if she chose. I'm asking you to listen. After that, if you still want to take me in, I won't resist. This was unexpected. In her centuries as a hunter, no target had ever willingly surrendered, especially not one skilled enough to evade her for so long. Curiosity, that dangerous companion to any predator, stirred within her. You have until I finish eating, she finally said, approaching with measured steps and taking the offered plate. Cody nodded, the firelight casting shadows across his face. That's all I need. The meat was indeed barely seared, still bloody at its center, just as she preferred. As she ate, Cody Brennan began to speak, and with each word, the simple hunt she had expected became something far more dangerous. The slippery terrain of the marshlands tested even Rhea's exceptional balance. Purplish mud sucked at her boots, releasing noxious gases with each step. Behind her, Cody moved with surprising agility for a human, navigating the treacherous ground with practiced ease. You're making this unnecessarily difficult, Rhea said over her shoulder, leaping gracefully from one solid patch to another. I said I would hear you out, not follow you through every hazardous biome on this planet. Trust is earned through shared adversity, Cody replied, his breath slightly labored, but his pace steady. Besides, what I need to show you isn't exactly in a convenient location. 3 hours earlier, by the campfire, he had told her an incredible story about experimental neural technology, military conspiracies, and a weapons program codenamed Mindbridge that could theoretically control the thoughts of entire populations. He claimed he had evidence that would implicate Earth's highest military echelons in illegal testing on unwilling subjects. He said the contract on him wasn't for capture but elimination, regardless of what Rhea had been told. She hadn't believed him. Of course, targets always had stories, excuses, reasons why they shouldn't be brought in. But something about his calm certainty had intrigued her enough to delay his capture. This evidence of yours better be substantial, she said, as they finally reached solid ground at the marsh's edge. Ahead loomed a sheer cliff face, its surface riddled with narrow crevices and jagged outcroppings. It is. Cody approached the cliff, examining the surface with practiced eyes. But, more importantly, it's verifiable. You can authenticate everything yourself before deciding what to do. He began to climb, finding handholds where Rhea saw none. She followed, her natural strength and flexibility making the ascent easier for her, though she had to admit the human's technique was impressive. You were special forces, she observed as they climbed side by side. Your movements, your situational awareness, they're not typical civilian patterns. Cody glanced at her, a hint of respect in his expression. 12th Tactical, Deep Reconnaissance and Extraction. 8 years of service before I transferred to Research Division. Research. Rhea found this difficult to believe. You're a scientist? Neurobiologist specializing in cross-species cognitive patterns, he confirmed, pulling himself up onto a narrow ledge and offering her a hand she didn't need. That's how I got involved with Mindbridge, and how I learned to predict Sathari hunting behaviors well enough to stay ahead of you. Rhea ignored his outstretched hand and vaulted onto the ledge with effortless grace. If you're so skilled, why run at all? Why not expose this conspiracy from within? Cody's expression darkened. I tried. 3 colleagues died in accidents within a week. Someone leaked my security access codes, making it look like I was selling classified information. By the time I realized what was happening, There was already a military extraction team at my apartment. I barely got out. They continued climbing in silence, ascending nearly 200 meters before reaching a narrow fissure in the rock face. Cody squeezed through first, and Rhea followed, her slender frame adapting easily to the tight space. Inside, the fissure widened into a small cave. The temperature here was significantly higher, steam rising from thermal vents in the floor. Cody removed a small device from his pack and activated it, creating a holographic display that illuminated the dim space. "This is what they're really after," he said, manipulating the display to show technical schematics, research data, and recorded video testimony. Project Mindbridge began as therapeutic technology for trauma victims, a way to help people integrate fragmented memories. But General Hadron Cross saw its potential as a weapon. Rhea studied the displays, her expression unreadable. The technical specifications were beyond her expertise, but the video testimonies from test subjects were disturbing. Humans and non-humans alike describing invasive procedures, forced compliance, and eventually, complete loss of autonomous thought. The neural interface creates a direct pathway to override natural brain function, Cody explained, his voice tight with controlled anger. In its current form, it requires physical implantation, but Cross is pushing for a broadcast version that could affect everyone within a certain radius. Imagine a weapon that could turn civilians, soldiers, even diplomats into perfect puppets with no visible signs of coercion. "A violation of at least 6 Galactic Council treaties," Rhea noted, her mind racing through the implications. "If this is true—" "It's true," Cody interrupted, bringing up another file. "And here's where you come in." The document that appeared was a contract, her contract, but with sections she had never seen before. Where her copy had specified live capture, this version explicitly called for termination. Where hers had been authorized by the Interstellar Security Bureau, this one bore the personal authorization of General Hadron Cross. "They used you," Cody said quietly. "The perfect hunter with a perfect record. Above suspicion. If I die during capture, it's just an unfortunate accident. Your reputation remains intact, and Cross eliminates the only person who can expose Mindbridge." Rhea felt a cold fury building within her. In 8 centuries of hunting, she had never been used as an unwitting assassin. The Sathari Code was clear. Hunters were not executioners. Each target deserved the dignity of proper judicial process. "How did you get this?" she demanded, examining the contract more closely for any signs of fabrication. "I still have one ally inside, Maria Vasquez, investigative journalist embedded with the military. She's been documenting everything, waiting for the right time to go public." Cody's expression was grim. "But she needs hard evidence to back up her claims. Evidence I've been collecting while staying one step ahead of you and Cross's cleanup teams." Rhea was about to respond when her enhanced hearing detected something, the faint but unmistakable sound of repulsor engines. Her eyes narrowed. "We have company," she said, already moving toward the cave entrance. 3 military transports, heavy class, descending approximately 2 kilometers northeast. Cody swore under his breath, quickly shutting down the holographic display. "Cross must have tracked us somehow. I have a jamming field active, but—" "Your field blocks standard tracking," Rhea said, her hunter's instincts fully alert. "But not the quantum-entangled beacon embedded in my gear." She pulled a small, silver disc from her utility belt and crushed it between her fingers. "Standard protocol for high-value contracts. I should have disabled it sooner." "So you believe me?" Cody asked, already gathering his equipment. Rhea's silver-flecked eyes met his. "I believe you enough to want verification, and I don't appreciate being manipulated." She drew her phase pistol and adjusted the settings. "How many men will Cross send?" "Full tactical team. 16 operators minimum, all with neural dampening gear to resist telepathic species." He shouldered his pack. "Is there another way out of this cave?" Rhea closed her eyes briefly, extending her senses beyond normal parameters. There's an underground water source below us, fast-moving, possibly connected to a larger system. She looked at the thermal vents. These might provide access if we can widen them. They worked quickly, using Cody's plasma torch and Rhea's considerably greater strength to break through the thin rock layer covering one of the larger vents. As they worked, the sounds of the approaching forces grew louder, the thud of armored boots, the distinctive click of weapons being primed. Just as they created an opening large enough to pass through, the first flashbang grenade bounced into the cave entrance. Rhea reacted instantly, shielding Cody with her body as the device detonated in a blinding flare of light and sound. Her specialized membranes filtered the worst of the concussive wave. But she felt Cody stagger against her. Without hesitation, she lifted him bodily and dove through the opening they'd created, plunging into darkness as gunfire erupted behind them. They fell for several meters before hitting water, a fast-flowing underground river, bitterly cold and completely dark. Rhea kept a firm grip on Cody as the current swept them away from the cave, her night vision allowing her to navigate while the human would be completely blind. "Can you swim?" she shouted over the rush of water. "Yes," he gasped, still partially stunned from the grenade.
"But I can't see anything."
"Follow my lead," she instructed, positioning herself slightly ahead of him. "Keep one hand on my shoulder and match my movements." Together, they navigated the treacherous underwater passage, avoiding jagged rocks and sudden drops as the river carried them deeper into the planet's crust. Behind them, faint lights indicated their pursuers had discovered the escape route and were following. After what seemed like an eternity, Rhea sensed a change in the water's flow pattern, an outlet ahead. She guided Cody toward it, and suddenly they were shooting out into open air, falling several meters before plunging into a larger body of water, a vast underground lake illuminated by bioluminescent organisms that clung to the cavern ceiling. They surfaced, gasping for breath, and quickly swam to the nearest shore, a narrow stone beach that extended around the lake's perimeter. "We need to keep moving," Rhea said, helping Cody to his feet. "The water will slow them down, but not stop them." Cody nodded, water streaming from his soaked clothing. "There should be a secondary outpost about 10 kilometers east of here. I've got backup data stored there, communications equipment we can use to contact Maria." They set off through the labyrinthine cave system, Rhea's superior senses guiding them through passages that would have been impossible for a human to navigate alone. As they moved, a strange sensation began to grow within her, a feeling entirely foreign to her hunter's mindset. She was protecting her prey. More than that, she was becoming invested in his survival, in his cause. The realization was unsettling.
"Why did you let me catch up with you?"
she asked abruptly, as they paused at a junction.
"You could have continued running."
Cody's eyes reflected the blue-green light of the bioluminescent fungi. "Because I did my research. Out of all the hunters they could have sent, you have a reputation for integrity. You've never violated the Sathari Code, never taken a contract that targeted innocents."
"You gambled your life on my ethical standards?"
Rhea found the notion almost offensive in its naivety.
"I gambled my life on the fact that you'd want the truth."
He held her gaze steadily. "Was I wrong?" Before she could answer, the distant echo of weapons fire reached them. Their pursuers were closing in faster than expected. "This way," Cody said, taking the lead for the first time and pulling her down a narrow side passage. "There's a defensive position ahead where we can make a stand if necessary." The passage opened into a natural chamber, with only one entrance, the way they had come. Stalactites hung from the ceiling like stone fangs, and the floor was littered with fallen rocks that provided natural cover. "Not the most strategic position," Rhea observed critically. "We've trapped ourselves." "Not exactly." Cody moved to what appeared to be a solid rock wall and pressed his palm against a specific configuration of crystals embedded in the stone. A section of the wall slid away, revealing a small room filled with equipment. Communications array, weapons, supplies, and a sophisticated computer system. My fallback position, he explained as they entered. Shielded against all standard scanning technologies and off any official maps of this cave system. Rhea examined the setup with newfound respect. You've been preparing for this for some time. Since I first discovered what MindBridge really was. He activated the computer system and began transferring data. We need to transmit everything to Maria. Once it's public, Cross won't be able to bury it no matter what happens to us. The word us hung in the air between them. Rhea found herself at a crossroads unlike any she had faced in centuries of hunting. Her contract, her false contract, demanded she bring this human in. Yet every instinct told her he was telling the truth.
If I help you, she said slowly, I become a target as well. Cross will send others after both of us. Cody paused in his work, looking up at her with those intensely blue eyes. I know. I wouldn't ask if there was any other way.
You haven't asked, Rhea pointed out. Not directly. A faint smile touched his lips. Would it make a difference if I did? Before she could answer, the communications array chimed, indicating an incoming transmission. Cody activated it, and a woman's face appeared on the screen, dark-haired, with sharp features and alert eyes.
Brennan, thank God, the woman said. I've been trying to reach you for days. Cross is mobilizing everything he has. He knows you're on Kepler.
Maria, Cody acknowledged. We know. They're already here. I'm transmitting all the data now, everything we've collected, including the modified Hunter contract. Maria's eyes shifted to Rhea, widening slightly.
Is that
Huntress Kethvar? Cody confirmed. She's considering her options. Well, consider faster, Maria urged. Cross just dispatched a second team with orders to sterilize the entire area if necessary. We're talking about orbital strikes, not just ground forces. Rhea stepped forward. You're Maria Vasquez, the journalist? That's right. Maria's expression was cautious, but direct. And you're the legendary Sathari hunter sent to bring Cody in, or kill him, depending on which version of the contract you believe. I've seen both versions now, Rhea said evenly. What I need to know is whether your evidence is sufficient to bring down Cross and stop this MindBridge project. If we can get it out, yes. Maria's confidence was evident. I have contacts at 3 major networks and direct access to the Galactic Council Ethics Committee. Once they see what Cross has been doing, the illegal testing, the mind control applications, the planned deployment against civilian populations, they'll shut him down immediately. A distant explosion rocked the cave, sending dust filtering down from the ceiling. The first team of pursuers was getting closer. Transmission complete, Cody announced. Maria, if anything happens to us. Nothing's going to happen to you, Maria interrupted firmly. Get to the extraction point. I've got a stealth shuttle standing by. She looked at Rhea again. Both of you. The transmission ended, leaving them in silence broken only by the increasingly close sounds of pursuit. We should go, Cody said, collecting a few essential items and weapons from his cache. The extraction point is 3 kilometers from here, through the eastern tunnel system. Rhea made her decision. With fluid movement, she drew her phase pistol and adjusted the settings to maximum stun capacity.
I'll hold them off while you set charges to seal this chamber, she said, her hunter's instincts shifting from pursuit to protection. We'll need to buy time for Maria to get this information to the right people. Cody looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite interpret. Relief, gratitude, and something else. Something warmer. Thank you, he said simply. Don't thank me yet, Rhea replied, moving toward the entrance. We still have to survive long enough for your evidence to matter. The next hour became a blur of tactical movements, precision shooting, and desperate flight through the cavern system. Rhea's combat skills,
honed over centuries of hunting the galaxy's most dangerous beings, proved devastatingly effective against Cross's soldiers. Despite their advanced equipment and neural dampening gear, they weren't prepared for a Sathari hunter fighting at full capacity. Cody matched her surprisingly well, his special forces training evident in every movement. Where she relied on superior strength and reflexes, he compensated with tactical awareness and predictive positioning. They developed an unspoken rhythm. She would clear a path forward. He would secure their rear, setting traps and false trails to slow their pursuers. By the time they reached the extraction point, a narrow vertical shaft that led to the surface, they had thinned Cross's forces considerably. But the second team Maria had warned about would be arriving soon. "The shuttle should be waiting at the surface," Cody said, securing climbing gear to the shaft walls. "Once we're aboard, we can rendezvous with Maria at the jump point and be off-world before Cross can organize a pursuit." Rhea checked her weapons, energy reserves nearly depleted after the running battle. "And if the shuttle isn't there?" Cody gave her a grim smile. "Then we steal whatever transport the second team arrives in." The climb was arduous, the shaft extending nearly 500 meters through solid rock. As they ascended, Rhea found herself contemplating the strange turn her life had taken. For centuries, she had been the hunter, the pursuer. Now she was a fugitive herself, allied with what should have been her prey. More than that, she was beginning to feel something for this human that went beyond professional respect or tactical alliance. The way he moved, the intensity of his focus, his unwavering commitment to exposing the truth. These qualities stirred something in her that had lain dormant for longer than she cared to remember. They were nearing the surface when the shaft began to vibrate. Rhea looked up, her enhanced vision penetrating the darkness to see the circular opening above them and the massive transport ship descending to block it. "Second team," she called to Cody, who was climbing just below her. "They're positioning directly above the exit." "We need a diversion," he replied, reaching for something in his pack. "I've got one pulse charge left. If we can detonate it just as we reach the surface, the electromagnetic surge might disable their systems long enough for us to board." Rhea nodded. "I'll go first. Draw their attention. Be ready to move the instant that charge detonates." They continued climbing, the vibration of the transport's engines growing stronger. As they reached the final few meters, Rhea could hear the hiss of the vessel's landing gear extending, the mechanical whine of its weapon systems activating. "Now," she whispered, and Cody pressed the pulse charge against the shaft wall, setting the timer for 15 seconds. Rhea surged upward with explosive strength, emerging from the shaft directly beneath the hovering transport. A dozen armored soldiers stood in formation around the opening, weapons trained on her the instant she appeared. "Surrender immediately," ordered their leader, a tall human in captain's insignia. "By authority of General Hadron Cross, you are both to be detained for treason against Earth and conspiracy against—" The pulse charge detonated, sending a wave of electromagnetic energy radiating outward. The transport systems flickered and died, plunging it into emergency power mode. The soldiers' weapons and communication gear likewise failed, leaving them momentarily disoriented. In that crucial moment, Rhea moved. With inhuman speed, she disabled 3 soldiers before they could react, using precise strikes to incapacitate without killing. Behind her, Cody emerged from the shaft and joined the fray, his combat style more lethal but equally effective. Together, they fought their way to the transport's boarding ramp, cutting through the surprised soldiers with ruthless efficiency. Within minutes, they had secured the vessel, sealing the hatches against the remaining forces outside. Cody took the pilot's seat, his hands flying over the controls as he bypassed security protocols and initiated emergency launch procedures. Rhea stood guard at the cockpit entrance, phase pistol trained on the sealed door in case any of Cross's men had managed to board. "Can you fly this?" she asked, as the engines began to power up. I can fly anything, Cody replied with grim confidence. But we've got a bigger problem. The orbital strike Maria warned about. It's already been authorized. Look. He pointed to a tactical display showing a weapons satellite moving into position above their location. In less than 5 minutes, it would have a firing solution that would vaporize everything within a 10-kilometer radius. Get us airborne, Rhea ordered, strapping herself into the co-pilot seat. I'll see if I can access their communications array. Send a false abort code. The transport lurched upward, its systems still recovering from the electromagnetic pulse. Outside, the remaining soldiers opened fire with backup weapons, but the transport's armor easily absorbed the impacts. As they ascended through Kepler's thick atmosphere, Rhea worked furiously at the communications console, drawing on centuries of experience with military encryption protocols. I've got something, she announced, as they broke through the cloud layer. Cross is using a standard alliance military rotation cipher. If I can match the frequency... A warning klaxon cut her off. The weapons satellite had acquired its target lock and was preparing to fire. We're out of time, Cody said grimly, pushing the transport's engines beyond safety limits. Brace for evasive maneuvers. What followed was a display of piloting skill that impressed even Rhea. Cody threw the unwieldy transport into a series of tight spirals and sudden vector changes that no human craft should have been capable of executing. The frame groaned under the stress, warning lights flashing across every console. The satellite fired, a blinding beam of concentrated energy that sliced through the atmosphere where they had been mere seconds before. The transport shuddered from the near miss, systems fluctuating as the energy discharge created atmospheric disturbances around them. It's recycling, Rhea reported, reading the tactical display. We have 40 seconds before it can fire again. Not enough time to reach orbit, Cody calculated, his focus absolute as he continued the evasive pattern. But maybe enough to reach Maria's shuttle. Sending recognition codes now. A small blip appeared on their scanner. Another vessel, moving fast and low across Kepler's surface toward their position. Unlike the military transport, this one showed no transponder signal, no identification markers. That's our ride, Cody confirmed as a coded response came through. Maria's pilot says to meet at coordinates 227 by 184, terrain depression. We'll need to set down and transfer quickly before that satellite recycles. They descended rapidly, the transport protesting the abuse with increasingly urgent warning signals. Below, a rocky depression came into view, and within it, the sleek form of a stealth shuttle, black, angular, practically invisible to standard scanners. Cody brought the transport down hard, the landing struts barely extending in time to prevent a crash. The moment they touched down, the shuttle's hatch opened, a figure waving them urgently inside. Go, Cody ordered, grabbing the data crystal containing backups of all their evidence. I'll set this thing to self-destruct. Buy us some more time. Rhea hesitated, a moment of uncertainty foreign to her hunter's nature. Together, she insisted, helping him program the transport's power core to overload. They sprinted from the crippled vessel toward the waiting shuttle, the satellite's deadly beam seconds away from firing again. As they reached the hatch, the ground behind them erupted in blinding light. The satellite had fired, but aimed at their abandoned transport rather than their current position. The resulting explosion sent them tumbling into the shuttle, the hatch sealing automatically behind them as the pilot, a grim-faced woman with military bearing, immediately initiated takeoff procedures. Cutting it close, she commented, guiding the shuttle up at a steep angle that pressed them into the deck plating. Maria's waiting for you at the jump point. We've got 30 minutes before Cross realizes his strike failed and sends interceptors. Rhea pulled herself up, extending a hand to help Cody to his feet. Their eyes met, and something passed between them, an acknowledgement of what they had just survived and what still lay ahead. We made it, Cody said quietly, his hand lingering in hers longer than necessary.
So far, Rhea corrected. But there was a warmth in her voice that would have surprised anyone who knew her, only as the legendary Sithari hunter. The shuttle broke atmosphere, accelerating toward a distant point of light that represented their rendezvous with Maria Vasquez, and the beginning of the next phase of their unexpected alliance. Maria Vasquez met them aboard her personal vessel, a modified diplomatic courier ship with enhanced stealth capabilities and transmission equipment powerful enough to broadcast across multiple star systems simultaneously. "You both look terrible," she greeted them, leading the way to the ship's communication center. "But alive, which is more than I expected. Did you bring the data?" Cody handed her the crystal. "Everything we have. Research files, test subject interviews, the modified contract, even tactical communications from Cross's teams on Kepler. It's all here." Maria inserted the crystal into her broadcast array, quickly verifying its contents. "This is it. The evidence we need to bring Cross down and shut down Mind Bridge permanently." She looked up at them, her expression serious. "But once I send this out, there's no going back. Cross has allies throughout the military hierarchy. You'll both be targets indefinitely." "We already are," Rhea pointed out, standing with arms crossed near the communication station. "The difference is whether Cross falls with us or continues his project unimpeded." "She's right," Cody agreed, moving to stand beside the Sithari hunter. "Send it, Maria, all of it." Maria nodded and initiated the transmission sequence. The ship's powerful array came to life, beaming the incriminating data to multiple recipients simultaneously. The Galactic Council Ethics Committee, 3 major news networks, and a select group of military officials known to oppose Cross's more extreme policies. "Transmission complete," Maria announced after several tense minutes. "Now we wait." The response came faster than any of them expected. Within hours, the first news reports began to circulate, carefully worded at first, then increasingly bold as more outlets picked up the story. By the following day, the Galactic Council had issued a formal statement condemning Project Mindbridge and calling for a full investigation into General Hadron Cross's activities. Cross himself attempted to deny everything, claiming the evidence had been fabricated by disgruntled former employees. But the testimony was too compelling, the documentation too thorough. When 3 council members volunteered to undergo memory verification procedures to confirm they had been approached about Mindbridge's diplomatic applications, Cross's support evaporated. Within a week, he was facing formal charges before a military tribunal. Project Mindbridge had been officially terminated, and its research facilities placed under council seal. For Rhea and Cody, however, the victory brought new challenges. Cross might be facing justice, but his allies remained in positions of power, and both the hunter and her former prey knew too much to ever be truly safe. "What will you do now?" Maria asked them, as they prepared to depart her ship at a remote station on the fringes of settled space. "The Council has offered protection, but—" "But protection means visibility, and visibility makes us targets." Cody finished for her. "No, I think we need to disappear for a while, at least until the political fallout settles." Rhea had been unusually quiet since the transmission of the evidence. Her thoughts turned inward. Now she looked at Cody with an expression he couldn't quite read. "I have a proposal," she said carefully. "The Sithari maintains several sanctuary worlds beyond Alliance space, places where even the most determined pursuers cannot follow without violating treaties that predate human spaceflight." "You'd take me to one of these sanctuaries?" Cody asked, surprised. The Sithari were notoriously protective of their private domains. "It would be unprecedented," Rhea admitted. "But these are unprecedented circumstances, and your knowledge of neural interfaces could be valuable to my people." Maria looked between them, a knowing smile playing at her lips. "I think that sounds like an excellent arrangement, and it gives me exclusive contacts in Sithari space. A journalist's dream."
The decision made. They parted ways with Maria, who promised to continue monitoring the situation and alert them if it became safe to return. Aboard a small, unmarked vessel provided by Sathari contacts, Rhea and Cody set course for the sanctuary world, a journey that would take them beyond the edges of mapped space. As the stars streaked past their viewports, Cody found Rhea on the observation deck, her silver-flecked eyes reflecting the cosmos beyond. "I never thanked you properly," he said, moving to stand beside her. "For believing me. For helping expose Cross." "I was manipulated," Rhea replied, but without rancor. "My professional pride demanded retribution." "Is that the only reason?" Cody asked quietly. Rhea turned to face him, studying the human who had so unexpectedly changed the course of her life. "No," she admitted finally. "There was something else. Something I haven't felt in a very long time." "What's that?" "Respect," she said simply. "For prey that became a partner. For a mind that thinks differently from my own, yet reaches the same ethical conclusions." Cody stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. "Is that all it is? Respect?" The question hung between them, charged with possibilities neither had dared acknowledge during their desperate flight from Cross's forces. Rhea found herself drawn to this human in ways that defied her centuries of solitary hunting. His courage, his intelligence, his unwavering commitment to what he believed was right. These qualities resonated with her own core values. "Perhaps not," she conceded, allowing herself a rare moment of vulnerability. "Perhaps there is something more, evolving between us." The smile that spread across Cody's face was warm, genuine, reaching all the way to those intensely blue eyes that had first caught her attention by the campfire on Kepler. "Evolution," he said thoughtfully. "An appropriate term for what happens when two different species find unexpected common ground." He extended his hand, palm up, an invitation, not a demand. "I look forward to discovering where this evolution leads us." After a moment's hesitation, Rhea placed her six-fingered hand in his five-fingered one, the contrast emphasizing their differences, even as the gesture united them. "As do I," she replied. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, the legendary Sathari hunter smiled without reservation. The sanctuary world exceeded even Cody's expectations. Unlike the frontier harshness of Kepler 442c, this planet was a carefully tended paradise. Ancient forests interspersed with crystalline lakes, mountains that seemed to touch the stars, and architecture that blended seamlessly with the natural environment. The Sathari elders were initially skeptical of the human's presence, but eventually accepted Rhea's vouching for his character. More importantly, they recognized the value of his knowledge about Project Mindbridge, technology that could potentially threaten even their secluded civilization if it ever resurfaced. In the months that followed, Cody and Rhea developed a partnership unlike any in recorded Sathari or human history. He shared his neurobiological expertise, helping the Sathari develop countermeasures against mind-influencing technologies. She introduced him to Sathari culture, philosophy, and hunting techniques that had evolved over millennia. Their professional collaboration gradually deepened into something more personal. The differences between them, biological, cultural, experiential, created challenges but also fascination. Each discovery about the other became a treasure, each misunderstanding an opportunity for growth. Occasional messages from Maria kept them informed of developments in Alliance space. Cross had been convicted on multiple counts and sentenced to life imprisonment. Project Mindbridge had been dismantled, its research locked away under Galactic Council seal. Most of Cross's closest allies had been removed from positions of power, though a few remained, maintaining a watchful eye for the fugitive scientist and the hunter who had turned against her contract. "It's still not safe to return," Rhea observed after reading Maria's latest update, nearly a year after their escape. These remaining loyalists would never stop hunting us. Perhaps it never will be completely safe, Cody acknowledged, looking out over the alien yet beautiful landscape that had become their home. But I find I don't mind as much as I expected to. Rhea studied him, noting how he had adapted to life among her people, learning their language, respecting their customs, even developing a taste for their food. Few humans had ever shown such adaptability, such openness to the truly alien. "You've changed," she said. "The prey I hunted across 4 systems would never have settled so contentedly into exile." Cody turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "The hunter who pursued me wouldn't have either. We've both evolved, as you said we might." He was right. Rhea realized the solitary, relentless hunter she had been for centuries had transformed. She had discovered aspects of herself long buried beneath professional detachment, capacity for connection, for trust, even for the complex emotion humans called love. "There's something I want to show you," she said suddenly, making a decision. "Something few non-Sathari have ever seen." She led him deep into the forest sanctuary, beyond the settlements to a secluded valley where ancient trees formed a natural cathedral. At its center stood a pool of water, so still it perfectly reflected the twin moons overhead. "The reflecting pool," she explained, guiding him to its edge. "Our tradition says that when 2 beings look into it together, they see not just themselves, but the truth of what lies between them." Cody looked at her questioningly. "Is this a Sathari ritual of some kind?" "Of a sort," she admitted. "It's typically reserved for those considering a formal bonding." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "Rhea, are you asking—" "I am proposing an evolution," she interrupted, her silver-flecked eyes holding his. "A formal recognition of what has grown between hunter and prey, between Sathari and human. If you are willing." In answer, Cody took her hand and together they gazed into the still waters. The reflection showed them as they were, different in form, but united in spirit. 2 beings who had found connection across the vastness of biological and cultural divides. "I am willing," he said simply, and sealed his acceptance in the human way, with a kiss that bridged worlds. In the years that followed, their story became legend, whispered in alliance outposts, taught in Sathari schools, celebrated by those who believed in the possibility of genuine understanding between different species. The hunter who protected her prey, the prey who trusted his hunter, together proving that even the most ancient boundaries could be transcended by courage, integrity, and love. Maria Vasquez's definitive account of the Mindbridge conspiracy, which won her the Galactic Journalism Award, always ended with the same epilogue. Somewhere beyond charted space, a Sathari hunter and a human scientist have found what eluded General Cross and all his technology. A true meeting of minds. A bridge built not of neural implants, but of mutual respect and shared purpose. Their story reminds us that the most powerful connections are not those forced upon us, but those we choose freely across all divides. And on their sanctuary world, Rhea Kethvar and Cody Brennan continued their shared journey, no longer hunter and prey, but partners in the greatest adventure of all, creating a life together that neither could have imagined alone.